Deadpool 2 cringy jokes. Really just two, though maybe there was another one because I went to the bathroom. But really there was only just two cringy jokes in Deadpool 2. And there were some other unfunny jokes, just jokes that I didn't really laugh or anything, but only two that I was like, oh god, why exactly did you put those in? We could have done without that. Other than that, it was actually a pretty funny movie. Hey everybody, it's Prince of Queens, and welcome to the Sunday Ramble episode. Oh god, I don't even know. I don't know, 6, 7, does it? I missed last week for some reason. I don't remember why. Oh, I remember why. It was because Sister Danger actually came over to my house, and we actually drank alcohol, which I don't really do very often. And I slept obscenely late into the afternoon, and I just didn't feel like it. Because Sister Danger is actually cool and worth hanging out with as a friend. And yeah, don't let the whole Kilroy thing be some sort of deterrent. She was really confused about what was going on too, let me tell you. That all said, I watched 2 movies this weekend. I've had a lot going on in my life, and it's been very, very intense. And honestly, it turns out that I largely just have to wait on a few things. So I've been trying to distract myself. I've been playing a lot of video games, and then I realized I could watch movies. So I saw last night, I saw Infinity War, which was pretty awesome. I have to say, it was pretty awesome. I'm not going to do any spoilers because, yeah, there's still people who haven't seen it. I was one of them until last night. But yeah, I cried. I cried. You know, Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark. Yeah, I cried. I'm crying a little bit right now, just doing that. So, that being said, I liked it, but I was one of the people that didn't really know what was going on during Infinity War. Oh, and for the record, all I'm going to be talking about this entire Sunday Ramble is comic books. That's the theme of this Sunday Ramble because of this stuff going on in my life. So if you've ever wanted to know what I think about comic books, and oh boy, I have a lot to say about comic books, it turns out, oh boy, if you wanted to know more about what I think about comic books and you haven't been in one of the live streams that I've done where I've actually talked to people about comic books, this is the video to watch. What I thought about Infinity War, I never actually read those comics. I read a lot of Marvel comic books from the 1980s, but not really so much the 1990s. I was never buying comic books myself. My comic books were all a hand-me-down stack of X-Men, X-Force, the New Mutants, and basically mostly just that. And the reason that I even own them is kind of a funny reason. So my sister, who's 9 years older than myself, who could theoretically maybe be a kind of a cool person if she wasn't irredeemably evil at this point. Like I don't really know. I mean, I could forgive her because she's my sister, but you know, I don't know if I will ever fully like her. But I could make peace with her as a sister-brother thing if she decided that she had to do so. One of my very fond memories of her was this Christmas, where she gave me her whole stack of old comic books. And the reason why she did it didn't take very long for me to figure it out. It was because she started hanging out with a new crowd of people. I think that she started hanging out with people who thought that they were kind of cool. Now, granted, this was like Seattle geek type cool, as opposed to like, you know, Seattle rock show type cool. So it's a very different thing. So she was hanging out with the people at the comic book store that thought that they were really cool. And they were into like Sandman and Hellraiser and things like that. And that was the cool thing to be into. Oh, and The Crow. All the gothy comics that they had in the early 90s. And she figured she needed to get rid of her old X-Force and X-Men and everything, so she just gave them to me for Christmas. But it was cool because it was like the sweetest sweetest Christmas gift maybe of my life in a lot of ways, because it was something that she actually liked and enjoyed. And, you know, I got a lot of mileage out of that stack. It was probably about, 4 inches high, which in comic book kid years is many years. Got me a good 3 years of like constantly reading those things, like with my friends, and my friends would come over because she probably gave those to me when I was maybe 9 or 10. And so I was still actually playing a lot, like getting rambunctious and liking to play tag and pretend to be characters. So we would read them and be like, yeah, that's Dazzler, and she does this, and that's Psylocke, and that's Nightcrawler, and that's, I don't know who else. I don't really remember that well. That's Angel, and he used to be the Angel. Now he's Archangel, and my sister hates him, but I think he's cooler as Archangel, but she thinks it's stupid. Blah, 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 blah. And that was my major understanding of the Marvel Universe. So I didn't really know much about what happened in the 90s. Like, I never read a comic that actually had Cable in it, for example. I don't really know Bishop. Bishop's power is that he can absorb other people's blasts and blast it back at them. And it's like, well, what can he do if there's no blast? Is that covered? I don't know. I just don't know. And like watching Deadpool 2, it was like, oh, cool. Cable can do kind of cool stuff. But I never really got that impression from the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 video game. But maybe I just didn't really know how to use him because I only played that game a few times anyway. But Infinity War, I just didn't really know. I had read enough about some of the characters that I remembered to hear about their evolution. Like, I remembered that Vision and Scarlet Witch became an item, and that they had a really interesting love affair, and it had to do with the stone in his head, and how she has this weird, I think I had heard this in like a YouTube video. She has a weird, mysterious power that is misunderstood, that grew more and more powerful over the years. And I remember her being in very, very old comics. Like, my sister had some reprint comics from when the X-Men first came out that she was in, when she was in the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants before she was in the Avengers or whatever. And she was a bad guy. And what she would do was she would hex people. She would just like do the little hand sign thing, and she would make somebody like slip on a banana peel or some stupid thing like that. She was like actually the weakest character that you could have. And I think that people decided that she needed to be more powerful. And so they made her more powerful and then more powerful. And then that became the thing. They started realizing that she had some strange thing within her that just grew more and more powerful as time went on. And it was mysterious. And I believe, but this is coming from me not actually having read the comic books myself. I believe that these dogs, hold on. Sorry, I had to stop for a second to make the dogs go away. She grew more and more powerful, I believe, to the point where it was almost as if she was godlike, but she didn't understand her own powers. She didn't know how to use them and control them. And I think that it got to the point where she would have dreams and alter reality on accident. And people were like, whoa, this is a really, really powerful being. Like, we don't know what her deal is. So I knew that about her, and it was cool to see her and Vision, because I was like, oh, this is kind of cute, whatever. And I had seen Vision in this one Marvel show that they had on Netflix that I liked pretty well, that I thought was pretty cool. And I had seen the Black Panther movie, and I had seen the first Avengers, and I had seen the Thor movie, and I had seen the Guardians of the Galaxy, but I had watched it on Netflix, I think when I was really drunk, and I didn't really like it that well anyway, and I don't really remember it. But like, there was some stuff going on that I didn't quite follow very well. I was one of those people. I still really liked the movie, though. It was still pretty sweet. Like, it was really well done. I thought it was a good movie. I almost went and saw it again today because I found myself right by the theater, but then they were also playing Deadpool 2. And I was thinking to myself, okay, maybe I should just go see Deadpool 2. But the thing is, I didn't like Deadpool 1. I'm one of the only people ever that didn't really like Deadpool 1. I didn't see it in the theaters, granted, but no, I'm sorry. That story was just dumb. It was not a good story. It was just basically it was a bunch of one-liners and building a premise. It built a premise, and then it ended. There was like one kind of cool fight scene at the end, but everything else was completely unpleasant. Like the middle section when he's being tortured forever, and then he has that fight in the fire scene. All of that was just like, can I not watch this? Like, I know basically what will probably happen. You know, he'll be really pissed off at the end and the guy will get away. Do I even like need to? It's not, I don't like watching this. It's unpleasant. It's like watching Freddy Krueger fight some stupid guy in hell. And, I don't know, maybe some people actually really, really like watching such scenes, but it wasn't what I had wanted to see out of the movie Deadpool. But Deadpool 2 was way, way better for me. It had an actually good story, and the one-liners weren't the special feature of Deadpool 2. The one-liners were used to advance the plot, and I think that everybody can probably agree upon that. It actually was a rich plot with a lot of interesting, fun things that happened. I liked Domino. I thought that she was great. I thought that she was fabulous. I loved her. Totally great character. Totally good. I didn't read the comics, though, that she was in. Like, I never read the version of X Factor where she was in it, so I don't know if it was an accurate portrayal of the character, but I thought Cable was pretty cool. I thought it was kind of strange that the Asian girl with the pink hair literally only did the one thing with the chain. I don't want to. Okay, that was a little bit of a spoiler. Sorry, guys. But what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yeah, the jokes. The jokes were pretty much, there was a lot of funny jokes. I thought that there was funny jokes in it, and I laughed out loud 2 or 3 times, which does not happen often. If you've ever been in a live stream with me and you say something that's funny, I very rarely actually laugh, I think, probably. Like, there's a lot of times where I'm like, that's funny. Yeah, interesting point. And I do think it's funny. I don't know. When I was in college, remember, I did actually major in script writing. So it got to the point where writing jokes and analyzing jokes did become work for years. And now I don't laugh at movies consistently. It's a very rare thing, even if I know that it's funny. But I did. I laughed a number of times during Deadpool 2. The 2 jokes that I thought were cringy, and I'm just going to say them because they happened towards, in the first act or so. They did not happen any later than 35-40 minutes in the movie, and they're just not funny anyway, so I might as well mention them. He goes to the X-Men house, and he says, "Oh, look at all these paintings of old white men. Maybe I should get a rape kit," or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. But, yeah, just saying old white men, I bet they're rapey. It needs some work. It needs some work. If he even just said old, white, powerful men, it would have been not... Like, it wouldn't have been funny to me, but it wouldn't have been a huge deal. But I'm pretty sure he just said old men, old dead white men or something. And it just sort of made it sound like, oh yeah, because all old white men are rapey. Or, shut up, dude. You know, I'm pretty sure a lot of people probably just found that joke kind of cringy. It's not the most offensive thing in the universe or anything. Like, it's not extraordinarily messed up that he would say that, because yes, there are many reasons to believe that there was a lot of rape happening in terms of the era in which American paintings that look like that, you know, that look relatively historic, paintings of the founding fathers, a lot of them were legally raping people frequently in the way that they had slaves that they had sex with. Though it's weird because legally you can't have consensual sex with a slave, but everybody who was wealthy owned slaves, and I'm sure some of them treated them better than others. You know, like if it was house slaves and you didn't actually own a plantation, if one does, I don't like to say you, if one of these dead people, because I don't believe you, the audience, is ever going to be owning any slaves, but if these people didn't necessarily own a plantation, they just happened to be wealthy during slavery times, back when everybody had slaves, and they were born into a family that had slaves, and they inherited an estate that had slaves, but they didn't want to be mean to them because they grew up with them, and, you know, they're like, oh, well, I was raised by these people. It would almost be like potentially like a community. Well, maybe you could grow up and fall in love with one of the daughters of your nanny or something like that and start having sex with her. But then legally it would be rape because your family owned that little girl because it was the daughter of the slave. Right? It would be a very strange situation because you would be the son of slave owners if you were in that situation. Your wife, and if you were her, you would be the daughter of a slave falling in love with a guy who just happened to be the son of slave owners. But you would still be your own people. You would still be making your own choices. And maybe you had a little romance thinking, well, together we're going to free all the other slaves. And I don't know, maybe a number of those romances happened. Maybe a lot of those people really thought that they were going to do it. Maybe not that many of them really did. Maybe not that many of them really were great, you know, free the slaves revolutionaries in any way, but maybe a number of those type of romances happened where they said things like that. Who knows? I don't know. But we can't entirely exclude the possibility, right? That's why that joke was kind of cringy to me. There's so much nuance having to do with it, and to just act like, oh, all old white men that would be painted are probably rapists. Shut up. Like, if you were to say powerful men, maybe, then it's a little bit better, because powerful guys do tend to be pretty rapey, from my understanding. Because I heard a good quote. I don't remember who said this, but power is the world's biggest aphrodisiac. And I can imagine that being the case. Like, who's to say whether or not a lot of people aren't necessarily like perverts until they become really, really powerful, and then all of a sudden they develop a taste for pedophilia? Maybe because they're like, well, there's a few things I haven't tried with all the hookers that I could afford throughout the years, and that's one of them. Yeah, I don't know. The other cringy joke was the one about cultural appropriation. Like, there was actually a cultural appropriation joke in it. It was when he was at the prison, and the guy leans in and he's trying to start beef with him during lunch, and he says, it's a white guy with dreadlocks, and he says, "What's your superpower, cultural appropriation?" And it's like, oh, shut up. Like, 2016 wants its joke back. If that's even, I don't, that's something that, if I had wrote that into a YouTube video, even in 2016, it would have fallen on the editing floor. You know, I would have been like, no, that's not a funny joke. Like, I bet I've made some pretty non-funny jokes in the past in my videos. I don't make a whole lot of jokes in my videos. I usually only have like 1 or 2 actual jokes in my videos. The other things are just me telling the truth, and people think that it's funny sometimes. But, you know, That was just not funny, and it was cringy because it was like trying to be funny, like to pander to SJWs or something in the stupidest way, and it was like, really, Deadpool, really? But there was only 2 moments like that, so people are being a little bit hard on it when they are like, is Deadpool being infested by SJWs? No, shut up. Okay. I think a lot of people have given this little spiel, but now I have too. Okay, so I just want to talk about comic books for a little bit more. My favorite comics of all time, like what I really, really got into and really, really enjoyed. I feel like there's a few more than this, but what I really remember is the Teen Titans from the 1980s, man. 1980s Teen Titans. Those were my shiz. Sorry, I gotta say it again. Those are my shiz. It's hard to do that. I think it only comes out once. That era of the Teen Titans, and I will tell you guys exactly which book to read. Like, you can order this on Amazon, or I have enough money that I could get a new copy, because it's a cool thing to pull out to like impress the fellas. Like, if you're a gay guy, especially, because gay guys love the art style, there's something very gay about it. The graphic novel that you can get is called Who is Donna Troy? And you're probably going, huh? Yeah, who is Donna Troy? Well, I will tell you. Donna Troy is the original Wonder Girl. So there's Wonder Woman, and then Wonder Girl comes as a result, or so you are first told, of Wonder Woman rescuing a human baby. You know, she's not an Amazon, from some burning building or something. And so she takes her back to Themyscira. And, is Themyscira, the Hawk planet? I don't remember. Oh no, it's been too long. I haven't been reading enough DC comics. She takes her back over to, the Amazonian, the Isle of Lesbos or whatever. And they decide to all give up a little piece of their own powers so that Wonder Girl will have a little piece of their powers and she'll be powerful too. And then she raises her to be a good fighter, but of course she's not as powerful as Wonder Woman. She's sort of the Batman equivalent to Wonder Woman. But she's a team player and she has a lot of heart, and she ends up being on the Teen Titans for a really long time. And for some reason, I always really liked her, but maybe it was just because she was supposed to be really likable. I don't know. Oh god, the dogs are back. Hold on. Anyhow, Donna Troy, she's the original Wonder Girl, and she's on the Teen Titans for a while. And then, after she becomes familiar with this notion that she was raised on Themyscira, which, she was for a while, it turns out that was actually a false memory that was implanted into her head, and it's not actually true somehow. And then they decide that some other thing is actually true that is explained in this book, Who is Donna Troy? And it's really, really cool. If you ever want to this is not the quintessential book to read to learn about Raven from Teen Titans, who is way, way cooler of a character if you actually read the comic books. Like, if you actually read the comic books from the 1980s, when Raven was first introduced, she's a really, really cool character. She's not like she is in the cartoon show from last decade, which is a good cartoon show, don't get me wrong. It was a much better cartoon show than the Teen Titans Go show. That was a good cartoon show, and even in the cartoon last decade, Raven was a pretty cool character. Like, I liked her, But if you actually read the comics from the 1980s, especially when she was first introduced, the thing that is cool about her is that she has the most complicated version of powers. So if you don't actually know her backstory well, Raven is an interdimensional witch, and her powers are extraordinarily strong, technically. Like, she's very, very, very powerful, but it's because her father is a demon who is basically the god of a certain realm that he controls. And I believe that her backstory is that somehow Raven was conceived, I believe, by, I don't know how actually she was born. Like, I'm not sure if the demon fell in love with a goddess or something like that. But for whatever reason, the place that Raven was from ended up becoming invaded by the guy, and he totally destroyed it. And she escaped to Earth to live in hiding, but also warn of him. And they're always saying to Raven, you know, like, Raven, what's your deal? You know, and they kind of want to know more about her. And she's always very mysterious, and she can't really tell them all that much. And she has to, like, actively try to control her powers by meditating for many hours every day, because if she is too in touch with her own powers, if she accesses them too much, then her father, Trigun, will find her, and he'll try to find her and access Earth through her, and then destroy Earth. And that happens a few times over the course of Teen Titans history. So Raven is in this Who is Donna Troy book, and the crap that really happens to Donna Troy is like weird, crazy, kind of like interdimensional crap too, but it's actually a better story than the Trigun stuff. And it's cool because the interdimensional stuff that happens to Donna Troy, some of the I'll just say the celestial beings that communicate with Donna Troy also decide to give Raven a talking to. They're like, oh, you're interesting. You're actually somewhat like us. We have a lot in common with you. Maybe we could hang out sometime. And Raven's like, thanks, not interested. I think something like that. It's pretty cool. So yeah, read the book Who is Donna Troy. It's the coolest thing ever. I'm gonna just have the cover of it as the entire screen for this little video. That's what I would say. If you want to know what type of comic book that I really, really like, that's my absolute favorite bound graphic novel ever. Other comics that I got into in adult life, I read the Books of Magic, which is kind of like Sandman for teenagers or something, I guess. But it was cool. I liked that. I mean, I read it when I was a teenager, but I thought it was cool, you know? And then they had, what was the other one that oh yeah, The Invisibles. The Invisibles is really cool. The Invisibles is a little bit dense. Like, they're trying to do so much with The Invisibles, and it's hard to follow. Like, they could draw out the story a little bit more and have, like, cooler action sequences to keep you more engaged. But the fact of the matter is this. Grant Morrison, who wrote it, and Grant Morrison's a pretty cool author if you actually follow his stuff and the parts, you know, like, he wrote in the original 52, like, not the new 52. No, I'm not talking about the new 52. I'm talking about 52. 52 was supposed to be a one-off. It was supposed to be a comic book comes out a week. Every week, a new comic comes out for a year. And it's an alternate reality in the DC universe, kind of like a special event, like, you know, the Flashpoint Paradox or Infinity Wars or, you know, Crisis on Infinite Earth, like all these things that happen that include like all of the characters in the superhero universe. Well, that was what 52 was like, and it happened last decade, and I was actually actively reading comic books when it happened, and it was cool. It was really cool. So the premise of 52 is this. For whatever reason, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are all out of commission. I believe Superman was like in deep space. I don't remember actually what happened to him. Batman was doing some soul searching, or actually I don't really remember what happened to him either. Wonder Woman killed someone for the first time. Like, Wonder Woman had never killed somebody in battle. I'm fairly sure. I at least not on purpose, as far as I know. But she killed a hero because he had taken control of Superman's mind and was going to start murdering people or something. And so she decided to just kill him. And she was really upset with herself because Wonder Woman is very noble. And so she was not being a hero for a year. And 52 was what happened when those three were out of commission. And basically what happens is that there's this long plot with Black. You should really read this. It's because you can get it in 4 graphic novels is what it takes to actually read this, and you should read it from beginning to end. And I will totally give just a little bit of spoilers, but it basically what happens is that Black Adam, who is one of the baddest bad guys, like he's as strong as Superman, technically strong as Captain Marvel, he's like the bad version of Captain Marvel, he ends up deciding to not be bad because he falls in love, and he shares some of his powers, and he creates a wife, and he shares his powers with a kid and creates a kid. And then things go a little bit south, and he gets kind of really pissed off. That's what I'm going to say. But there's a lot more going on. There's like, that's really only like 10% of the actual plot is based around that. There's like all these other things that are just completely different with basically every DC character you can imagine. You would want to have a understanding of who these people are, you know, like you would want to know who both Zatanna and Zatara are, and who Dr. Fate is, and who Elongated Man, wait, not Elongated Man, Plastic Man, whichever one's the detective. You'd want to know who the Question is. The Question is one of the coolest DC characters. I love him. I love the Question. I absolutely love the Question. But, that was a tangent. Oh, the reason why I was talking about that is because Grant Morrison wrote parts of the New 52. Or not the New 52, not the New 52, not the New 52, 52. He wrote about a fourth of 52. And you could tell when it was him because he does these really, like, psychedelic, interdimensional things. And the thing is with Grant Morrison is that, like, he smoked some hash in, like, somewhere, maybe in, like, Morocco or something, and it was either laced with something or he just had a very weird reaction because he started hallucinating. And that very much shaped his writing because he had this, like, crazy spiritual epiphany when he was about 30 or so, and it is, like, interdimensional, and it's shaped his writing ever since. So he includes that kind of thing in 52, but he also had the main comic where he really does that type of thing is The Invisibles. And The Invisibles is this just kind of like reality shifting epic. And be prepared to not entirely follow it and need to really, really read it closely. But then also feel overwhelmed and like not want to read it all at once. You know, like you're not going to get addicted to it too often because it's like you want to put it down because it's making your head hurt. But it's also really, really cool and interesting. Like if you can force yourself through it, you'll feel like a smarter, more well-rounded person for doing so. I recommend it, but the artist he was working with, he was working on a budget with The Invisibles. Like I imagine he was barely allowed to make this comic book because it's so strange. Like The Invisibles is the strangest comic book I've ever read. And, yeah, you should check it out. You should check it out. But the art is not that cool. There's not really any good fight scenes. It's cool because of the story. It's cool because of the way the characters develop once you get to know them better. And it has a really cool, like, one of the things about the superhero team, it's like a team of, I believe, 4, and they shift roles. Like, one of them's the leader for a while, and then after a while, another one becomes the leader, and has to do with some sort of elemental cycle, time cycle thing. And one of them is from the future. And then I guess like at some point in the plot, the future becomes the present and then she's the leader or something, like weird crap like that. Oh, and she's from the future, but she comes across as crazy to everybody. But it's just because she actually knows what happens in the future. I can kind of relate to that. I can maybe kind of relate to that. So I liked that. Let me finish up. What else about comic books do I want to say? Oh yeah. Finally, I wanted to say that out of all of the comic books characters that I really liked, Raven. I really, really like the Martian Manhunter. I really relate to the Martian Manhunter a lot in the way that I feel like I can become anybody. Like he can shapeshift, he can read minds, he can look like anybody, and it's almost as if he understands humans better than humans understand humans, but he no longer understands himself because his entire race died, and it died like 2,000 years ago, and he doesn't really remember what it was like to be around other green Martians at all. And that feels like me a little bit, man. It feels like me. So I really like that. Like maybe, in a lot of ways I'm a lot like the Martian Manhunter, but the person who I really like, who I just think is cool, is the Ravager, who's Slade, Deathstroke's daughter. And Deathstroke is a really good character. He's a really good character. He's like DC's equivalent of Captain America, basically, except for he's bad. And he's a mercenary. So he's a super soldier that's very, very highly trained in combat. He has one eye, and he's mean, and he kills people and has no problem killing people. And, he's somebody that you don't underestimate. Like, he's not technically all that powerful, but he knows how to fight. Like, he can take out 9 heroes that are more are stronger than him, that know how to do more stuff. Like, there's this one scene where he's literally going to fight like nine members of the Justice League, and including people as powerful as Zatanna, who's the most, like, one of the more powerful characters, because she can literally say a word backwards, and like she could say throw car backwards and a car would fly at you. So the first thing he does is he does like a flip, and he just like sticks his like 2 fingers into her stomach, and she's like, what just happened? And then she starts puking blood. He is cool, and he has a daughter, and his daughter he raised her on the super serum to the point where she has precognitive abilities, and she can predict other people's moves. And so if somebody is going to attack her from behind, she can tell. So I always liked her. I always thought that she was really cool. Because she's really twisted and messed up and has like drug and alcohol problems, and actually has killed people, but then joins the Teen Titans for a brief moment. For whatever reason, they stopped having her on the Teen Titans. I'm not really sure. I really liked it when she was on there. She would get in fights with the new Wonder Girl, Cassie, the blonde one, who I hate. I can't stand Cassie. Oh god, she's lame. I really liked the dynamic of like Cassie and Ravager, getting in little cat fights. I liked it. So yeah. What's my favorite Marvel character? Do I have a favorite Marvel character? It's a hard one. I don't know if I really do. Yeah, the Marvel characters don't really have a lot of personality depth. Though I will say, this is the closing word. Closing word. I would consider going straight for the Scarlet Witch. Yeah. I bet a lot of straight guys are going to agree with me about that. Okay, have a good one.